like to call to order the April meeting of the New Bern Board of Adjustment. Seth, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Richard Parsons, Peter Dillon,
Here.
Jim Morrison,
Here.
John Riggs,
Here.
John Muro is excused medical. Kip,
Here.
Barbara Sampson,
Here.
Jonathan Foster, Ross Beaton. I think we have a quorum.
Okay, great. Okay, we have no minutes to deal with, and so we are ready to proceed with the new business. Tonight's business is the consideration of a special use permit request for a scrap material salvage yard. Property is located at 2912 Neuse Blvd and is further identified as Craven County Parcel Identification Number 8-242-088. First thing we need to do is if anybody is going to speak tonight, we need to have them sworn in. Since this is a quasi-judicial board, we need to swear in all speakers.
Is this you? Sorry,
It's just me, I believe.
Okay. With the left hand, I will raise your hand. You swear
Hey.
affirm that the evidence you shall give to the board is action.
I will.
This action shall be the truth. the whole truth,
Have
nothing
a mistake.
but the help you God.
Just start.
Okay, Seth, will you introduce this request to the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Robert Childs Engineering on behalf of S&M Southeast LLC has requested that the Board of Adjustment hold a public hearing tonight, April 26, 2021. Consider a special use permit application for a scrap materials salvage yard within the existing facility, once occupied, same use, located at 2912 Neuse Blvd. Craven County tax records state this is a 3.24 acre tract that is currently vacant. This again was a former scrap metal facility for many years. The project was conditionally approved by the city's Departmental Site Plan Review Committee on April 9th, 2021. The applicant has agreed to all the requested changes for the site plan as recommended by city staff. Staff found the proposed project is consistent with plans, rules, and regulations of the city of New Bern, with no further changes.
Okay. The applicant, Mr. Childs, you're representing the applicant. If you go just to the podium up there, yeah, so we can all see you. And describe the request that you're representing.
All right. Basically, we're reactivating the salvage metal recycling facility at 2912 Neuse Blvd. We've got some upfit going in, but in the building, Stephen is here on behalf of Sims. He's the site manager, and we're basically cleaning it up and fixing the office and putting it back to work. Right now, the only place you can drive the salvage is Moorhead or Kinston.
You can go to Havelock.
Havelock, Newport.
Yeah.
So it fills a need in town.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for?
Yes, I do. Is that the old Raymond Goldman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Site, okay.
So that we don't have to deal with it later, can you deal with it? The application says 5.11 acres of land, and Craven County has, and it's all about the railroad right away.
And we have a survey that shows them occupying to the railroad center line. There was a spur there at one point. You can see the remnants of the spur in the shadows of the trees. And so we've included to the center line because there was an old deed that went to the center line. I have a recorded plat that shows the parcel extending, including up to the railroad center line. And you can see where we occupy that area and have occupied that area historically. North of the what was the original parcel boundary. And so we're going to continue to use that, and no one has had to raise any issue with it.
Okay. I guess from a legalistic standpoint, and I'll ask this question, you know, we're being asked to grant a special use permit on railroad right-of-way according to this survey. And you have the deed that says,
I have a recorded plat that shows that area occupied by Goldman Metals and then subsequently by Sims Metal Management.
okay. Do you see the issue we're dealing with here?
Can I ask it?
Yeah.
I might be off, but whatever we do, approve or not approve, what I don't understand is how could it go past that line? You see what I'm saying? I mean, how could our authority go past the line and into the railroad right of way? Is that possible? I mean, maybe, I guess it is, I don't know.
Well, that's a question I was
Well,
asking.
Okay.
the railroad right of way is not zoned, so there's no zoning on the railroad right of way, so there's no conditional use or a conditional use permit for it. So basically, the area that we're going to be asking for is the triangle that you see there, because the stuff that's in the property held in common is been used, and by adverse possession there is some rights to it, but we're only asking for the parcel that is shown on the GIS.
So you're only asking for a special use permit on the 3.45 acres?
Right, correct.
Okay, but I saw some maps where there was proposed concrete being poured, new concrete being poured.
Right, and it's an area that's been occupied historically and been used. And we've accounted for that, and we accounted for all the impervious, both on that track and outside of it.
Outside of it.
And Mr. Chair, to get to the question I think you were trying to ask, one of the duties before this board tonight is to determine substantial competent evidence, and if there's any evidence that the applicant doesn't have rights to the parcel that's outside of that blue triangle, then the opponents of the petition would have an opportunity to bring that evidence before this board, and if there's no evidence to the contrary, then you can certainly weigh that accordingly in making decisions about whether to issue in any conditions.
The primary evidence, we have a fence that runs along the edge of the pavement that's been there and it's been occupied, and the fences usually indicate where people have rights to be, and it's been there for 25 or 30 years.
Okay. And just so that we all understand, I think when we get down to, if we agree to grant a special use permit, I think we can put a condition on it that it is for the 3.75 acres shown in that triangle.
And that would be acceptable.
That'd be acceptable.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.
One other question. In looking at the revised site plan, are there now two entrances to go back into?
No, there's an
the facility?
entrance on the south corner there, where you see where the driveway, the parking lot is.
Right.
Right there. There's an entrance there. There's an exit on the other side. And that has been an entrance. There's a gate in the corner onto the property that had been an entrance in the past. We're reusing that entrance, and we're going to have the traffic not coming both ways. They're going to come in. On the plat, it shows the traffic patterns where they're coming in on the southern entrance and exiting over the scales on the northern.
Okay, and because it's a DOT issue, but you've got people there across the street that weren't there when it was a salvage.
It's basically, the DOT and the departmental review had comments about having to renew the driveway permit, so we'll address that as.
And then when you put the sidewalk in, going up the existing screening, will you lose any substantial amount of that screening on?
There's
Neuse Boulevard?
enough, the screening's inside the fence, and there's enough room between the fence and
Okay.
the, actually, it's outside the fence, but there's enough room there to
It kind
run.
of slopes off when
Yeah,
you get there, yeah.
it's gonna be a little bit more challenging, yes.
And we'll probably ask you the same questions when we get to the public safety portion of this conversation. Okay, thank you, Pete.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's move on to the 6-step process. And seeing no one here in the audience anywhere to comment about it, we might have to, we might be able to go through this fairly rapidly. Okay. The first step in our process, and again, we have 6 steps that we have to go through and find affirmative or negative information about. The first one is the requested permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses. And we will ask again the applicant to comment about item number 1. Requested permit is within the jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses.
Yes, it is, with special use. It's I want.
Yeah, I'll enter that into the record.
Yeah, there's a table in your stuff that you sent us.
For the presentation, the property is in I-2 zoning district, which allows for the scrap metal facility through special use permit. In the packets that the members got, there's a portion of the table that shows that.
Lacking any audience visible, I will not ask for comments for opposition or in favor of, but I will also ask the board if they have any questions about requirement number 1, about the permit and its jurisdiction. Okay, not hearing any, we'll move on to number 2. The application is complete. Pete?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay. Again, we hear no one can comment in favor or in opposition. Board, any questions about the application? And again, we will reiterate that the application will cover the 3.45 acres instead of the 511 shown on the permit. And we will confirm in the minutes that that is acceptable to the
I mean,
applicant.
it's not gonna change our use.
Okay. Requirement number 3, if completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all the requirements of this ordinance.
Yes.
Okay. Seth, you did comment that it had been through departmental review and received a favorable readout from.
That's correct. And a few changes that were requested were made.
Okay. Again, no outside comments being seen. We'll skip that and go to the board for questions about the application. The development will comply with all the requirements of the ordinance. Any questions from the board for the applicant? Okay, requirement number 4. The use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. Applicant, would you have any questions or comments you'd like to make regarding that?
They do a good job of keeping the site clean and organizing things, and I don't see how it would change. It's controlled access, controlled entrance and egress. You can't get anybody in there. There's a fence around the whole thing, so it's not going to endanger anybody. It will be deleterious to the public health.
We might also add that the proposal includes sidewalk down Neuse Boulevard. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's a requirement for the ordinance.
Okay. All righty. We will further questions from the board about item number 4, endangering the public health?
Excuse me. Being a new person to New Bern, I want to ask this question. Was there any past environmental issues with this site?
And I'm aware of,
Good question to ask the applicant.
None that we're aware of. I believe y'all did a phase 1 or phase 2 when you bought it, didn't you? Yeah. So if there's anything, it's been mitigated.
So it's been tested?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Requirement number 5, that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. Comments from the applicant?
It's a scrapyard. It's been a scrapyard.
Okay. Again, seeing no public to comment one way or another, we'll turn it over to the board for additional questions, if any, about item number 5.
Okay, I have a question. Okay, you say scrap, what kind of, talking about like cars or special, some different type of scrap?
So Sims is a metal management company, and they bring in metals and recycle it. They're setting up a place to contain all the cars, drain cars, and crush them, and send them out to be resmelted into steel.
Any further questions? Okay, we'll move on to item number 6. The location and character of the use as developed according to the plan submitted and approved will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city.
We meet the zoning with conditional use, so yes.
Okay? Again, public lacking, we will move on and turn it to the board.
Is this lit any special way, like this is not a 24-hour lighted operation? Or is it,
No, it's going to be roughly 7 to 5.
so it won't be like a shopping center that's all lit up at night?
The light pollution won't be an issue.
Security lighting, but that's about it?
Right.
Okay.
Any further questions on item number 6? Okay. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to close the public comment period.
I move we close the comment period.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close public comment on the 6 steps. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now, we're going to go back through the 6 steps again. And you don't have to make any comments, Pete, this time. This is strictly for internal comments and questions within the board itself. So, again, we'll go through item requirement number 1. The requested permit is within its jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses. Board comments, questions? Okay. Being done, I would entertain a motion on item number 1.
Mr. Chairman, I move we find the requested permit is within this jurisdiction according to the table of permissible uses, and the use is 11.000.
Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second on approval of requirement number 1. Any further discussion? Oh, the roll call. Sorry. Got a roll call, these.
Sir. Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Hi.
Kip,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Peter.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Motion passes.
Okay, item number 2, the application is complete. Turn it over to the board for questions internally, comments. Hearing none, the board would, chair would entertain motion on item number 2.
I move that we consider the application complete.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of number 2.
Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Yes.
Kip,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beaver.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Requirement number 3, if completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all the requirements of this ordinance. Board, questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move that that if completed as proposed in the application, the development will comply with all of the requirements of this ordinance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Yes.
Kip,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beaver.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Requirement number 4, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. Board, questions, comments?
No, okay, I know he said, I know the area, so I know he said that you'll be going in from the fence side, but he said we're coming out, I wasn't sure how they be going out.
Okay, can you enlarge that? If you look at the plan that was submitted to us, on the very bottom where the asphalt is, they're putting a new scale in on that side, and the traffic will enter there, and then where that little orange rectangle there is, that is the scale for measuring, weighing the trucks on the outbound. Is that correct, Pete?
Yes, it is.
So you got two-way traffic on either side of that long skinny building. You got in on this side and out on the other side.
Okay. All right.
Any additional questions? We get a motion on number 4.
Mr. Chairman, I move the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted.
Second.
And we have a motion and second. Any additional discussion? Roll call?
Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Yes.
Kip,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beaver.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Requirement number 5, the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the use is a public necessity. And again, if you remember from our past meetings, there were really 2 questions in that, and we will take them separately. And the first issue we'll deal with is that the use will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property.
And Mr. Chairman, given no evidence was submitted, I move that the use will not materially endanger, will not substantially reduce the value of adjoining or abutting property.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Yes.
Kip Paraboy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beaver.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Okay. Now, the second part of that is that the use is a public necessity, and because we're not changing, and we've already approved that the values of adjoining and abutting property will not be affected, I think that I'll ask council, do we need to vote on okay, do we need to vote on whether or not the project is a public necessity? And we
Mr.
can-
Chairman, I move as presented, the project would be a public necessity for the city of Newton.
No.
Can't say no.
No, because
No.
the question really is, if it affects additional property, then it can be affirmed by the fact that it's a public necessity. And we've already said that the properties are not being affected. So the part that says that it's a public necessity is really mundane to the whole thing, but it still needs to be recorded in the minutes that a vote was taken and it was determined not to be a public necessity.
Yes.
That's okay.
Sure. Want to try again, or?
So you had a motion, so you can just, need a motion.
Would you like to amend your motion?
I'm not sure about the not public necessity part of that.
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
so for this particular finding of fact, it's either or. Either the adjoining or abutting property values are not negatively impacted, or it's a public necessity. This board has already found that the adjoining properties are not going to be materially affected. Therefore, the property is not a public necessity. So I think based on the last finding by this board, the motion would be properly couched as a finding that this property is not a public necessity. And by saying it's not a public necessity, you substantiate what you just voted on. Does that make any sense?
Yes, no, it does. Thank you. Okay, I'll amend my motion to,
Okay.
given the previous, the approval of the previous motion, I would designate this as not a public necessity.
Okay. We have a motion that this is, that the project is not a public necessity.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Peter Dillon,
Aye?
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Yes.
Kip Periboy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
Ross Beaton.
Yeah.
All right, motion passes.
Okay. Requirement number 6. The location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city. Board questions? Comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move we find the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development of the city.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Peter Dillon,
Aye?
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Yes.
Kip,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
and Ross.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, having reviewed the 6 requirements and found all of them to be in the affirmative, I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the special use permit.
I'll make the motion. Do you need me to?
That is real easy.
Okay.
To approve the
To
request.
approve, yeah, sorry, to approve the permit.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the special use permit as submitted. Any comments from the board? Discussion? I would ask that you approve, that you add to, if you would consider adding the amendment, that it would cover the 3.45 acres.
2.4.
Yeah.
3 point what?
2.4.
3.24 acres shown on the Craven County GIS system.
Okay, so we're approving the permit only for the 3.24 acres shown on Craven County's GIS map.
Yes.
Okay. That's
As was discussed with the applicant earlier.
so that's the amended motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there a second to the amended motion?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to the amendment. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call?
Peter Dillon,
Aye?
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Yes.
Kip Periboy,
Yes.
Barbara Sampson,
Yes.
and Ross Beaton.
Yes.
All right,
Okay. The request for the special use permit has been affirmed. Are there any conditions that the board would like to attach to the special use permit? Having heard all the issues that have been discussed.
I just have a question so I can make sure I'm understanding. Well, I see where they have the assessed acreage of 224 and the calculated acreage for 325. I was wondering why is that so? If they got it, they got it, it's assessed for 324, but the calculation is for 325. So, I mean, it seems like there's a difference, and I was just wondering, was there any particular reason why there's a difference like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, why we're just trying to understand, because you see right there, we got it says 324, but calculated 325, so I was just checking to see if there's a reason they had it like that, or...
I'll try to explain it if I can. The survey that's in your packet encompasses 5.11 acres, but a portion of that is existing railroad right-of-way that the applicant said they had a deed that covered that, a plat that covered that back yonder. And so the railroad claims 200 feet. And if you look at the survey, they show 100-foot right-of-way, railroad right-of-way on the plat.
Assessed and calculated right up here.
It's just a difference between what the deed states and what the county
I think that's what she was.
calculates.
Oh, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because I was trying to understand why, because I was saying if they assessed that part, then it still seemed like it's, about, 324, 325, like, say they calculated, it'd be that amount, say, seems like we're leaving somewhere out, and then assess that.
A hundredth of an acre is about 20 by 20 squares. So
Okay.
it's just some error between the way the deed was written and the way the map was calculated and the way the county calculates their acreage.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to make
I'm
sure.
sorry, Barbara, I took off.
Oh, no,
Okay,
I was trying
I
to see
didn't
that,
understand the question.
I know, because it was just seemed like strange to me.
There's very
Yeah.
very few properties in Craven County over 3 or 4 acres that are exact.
Okay, all right, I was just saying,
Do we have, we were talking about conditions. Is there any additions? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we add no conditions to this permit.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we found no additional conditions.
The second?
I second it.
And we have a motion and second that we will not add any other conditions to the permit. Roll call?
Peter Dillon,
Aye.
Jim Morrison,
Aye.
John Riggs,
Yes.
Kip Fairwood,
Yes.
Robert Sampson,
yes.
and Ross Beatty.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Gentlemen, your special use permit has been approved. We wish you good luck in the scrapyard business. Is there any additional old business to come before the board? Does anyone has any?
None from staff.
Any comments or questions from board members? If not, you know what comes next. A motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
That's not hard to get.
That's the easy one.
Yeah, is there a second to it though?
A second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The April meeting is now adjourned.